Welcome into the Radio 353 studio. I'm Gavin Witham, and today I have the opportunity to sit down with two of our 2023 Wall of Recognition inductees. Our first inductee is Erik Stalcup. Erik was a 2006 Wellington High School graduate. He graduated as the valedictorian of his class, and while he was at WHS, he participated in band, jazz band, pep band, and Scholars Bowl. He was a 2005 Wichita State University Presidential Scholar and a 2006 University of Kansas Scholar. And on top of that, he was awarded a National Merit Scholarship following his 2006 graduation. Erik, thank you so much for taking the time and sitting down with us today. Congratulations on your induction.
Thank you very much.
Let's just start off with the questions. Tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of the journey that you took to get where you're at today.
Well, after I graduated school here, I went to Kansas State. I was interested in physics. I think that kind of started when my mom had bought me this book about physics called The Elegant Universe, and it kind of explained a lot of fundamental physics things in like a very easy to understand way, from like quantum mechanics to relativity and things like that. So that's one of the things that really got me interested. So I went to Kansas State, studied physics there. Towards the end of my junior, senior year, kind of around there, I decided I wanted to do something related to space, but more on the engineering side rather than science.
Yeah.
So I decided to get a master's in aerospace engineering, and I was interested in working at NASA at that time. So I was looking at schools that were located near NASA centers. There's 10 NASA centers around the country. And so I ended up going to Cleveland, Ohio, to Case Western Reserve University there, and got my master's there, and eventually ended up getting a job at the NASA Center in Cleveland, which is Glenn Research Center.
Awesome. How does it feel to be inducted to the WHS Wall of Recognition today?
Oh, it's a great honor. I didn't know this program was around. I think it started after I graduated, but there's definitely a lot of very excellent people on that wall. So I'm certainly honored to be among them.
Of course, yeah. One, we kind of want to keep this Wellington oriented. So, like, how would you say that the Wellington school systems and or maybe just a community member or a group of people in the community, how did they kind of shape your career to be what it is today?
Well, I had a lot of great math and science teachers, that's for sure. That had a big impact on my career path. Even all the way back to elementary school, Mrs. Nance ran something called Math Club. I don't know if they still do that or not, but taught us a little bit more advanced math topics in elementary school. And I don't know, that probably started a lot of my a lot of the journey that I took.
Yeah. That's awesome, though. I feel like Wellington is a very tight-knit community, sort of, and I just feel like it's awesome that you are inducted into the Wall of Recognition today. But is there anything else you want to share on here before we let you go?
Other than math and science, I mean, there's a lot of other parts of my education that I'm lucky to have had here. Particularly, I'd say my shop classes that I had. Yeah. Mr. Hartman was a teacher back then. I mean, there's some things that I learned there that are very directly applicable to what I do now. So definitely glad to have that experience.
And so that was more like hands-on learning probably, right?
Exactly.
Would you say those probably go hand in hand with each other, like having to do the hands-on work and also learning about the math and stuff? Would you say that's pretty essential for what you do today?
Yeah, that's really important. Having hands-on experience, laboratory experience that I got in college, things like that, that's definitely valuable.
Yeah. All right. Well, we just want to thank you for jumping on with us and give you one huge congratulations for being inducted into the Wall of Recognition.
Thank you very much.
All right, welcome back. We are joined with our second inductee, Todd Diacon. Todd was born and raised in Wellington, and his father was a town doctor, and his mother was a homemaker and community volunteer. He earned his bachelor in history from Southwestern College in Winfield, Kansas, which at the time only enrolled 500 students. Todd then went on to earn his master's and his doctorate in Latin American history from the University of Wisconsin. He joined Kent State in 2012 as senior vice president and provost, and was elected president of the university in 2019. Since his arrival, the university has experienced dramatic increases in retention and graduation rates, while expanding the number of first-generation students and students with higher financial need. Todd, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day today.
No, the pleasure is entirely mine. Thank you.
We just want to give you a huge congratulations on being inducted today. So go ahead, tell us a little bit about your journey to get where you're at today.
Well, actually, I always knew from the time I was in middle school that I wanted to be a historian.
Mm-hmm.
I majored in history at Southwestern. I did take the law school entrance exam in my senior year, and I thought, man, if practicing law is anything like this exam, I do not want to do that for sure. So I always knew I wanted to do history. And then I had a really influential Spanish professor at Southwestern.
Yeah.
And he got me interested in Latin America. And so I went to the University of Wisconsin-Madison for the MA and PhD program in Latin American history, and I had never taken a course in Latin American history in my life until I enrolled in that program.
That's awesome. I heard that you've written a book, right?
I've written 2 books on the history of Brazil.
So tell us a little bit about that. Like, didn't you win some sort of prize for that?
Right, thanks. My second book, called Stringing Together a Nation, won the Warren Dean Prize for the best book on Brazilian history.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and it's a history of the army unit that built the first telegraph lines through the Brazilian Amazon.
Mm-hmm. That's so cool. So how does it feel to be inducted today on the Wall of Recognition?
Yeah, for me, it's a tremendous honor. Really, a lot of who I am is because of Wellington and sort of the values that I grew up with here. And I haven't been back in quite a while. Mm-hmm. So for me, it's both an honor and then just a real great opportunity. We drove by my father's office building where he practiced medicine and drove by our old house. So
yeah, a little trip down memory lane.
It is a trip down memory lane, and I really am appreciative of the honor.
Yes, that's awesome. So how would you say maybe like the Wellington school systems how did they kind of shape your career to be what it is today?
Well, I remember very specifically a course. I don't know if it was in history or government or current events that I took right at the beginning of the oil crisis. Mm-hmm. So it would have been like spring of '74 from Mr. Wallace. Mm-hmm. And it was just a fantastic course that just really fired my interest even further in history and policy and current events. And I think that course in particular, and then there was a government professor or teacher named Al Lowe.
Yeah.
And Al was really an entertaining teacher. I knew I wanted to go that direction, but after taking classes with those 2 individuals, I knew for sure I wanted to do it.
That's awesome. So is there anything else you want to let us know? Anything you want to tell us about yourself before we let you go here?
Well, I'm really appreciative of how Kansas, and I can only speak for when I was here, how dedicated Kansas was to funding its schools and making sure that even the smallest towns had really good schools. I assume that commitment continues, and I'm really appreciative that I grew up in a place that recognized the value of public education.
Yes, it's awesome. So anyway, thank you so much for joining us. We just want to give you one huge congratulations on being inducted today.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and now we are joined by Mr. Phelps. He is presenting some information about one of our other inductees who was not able to join us. So go ahead and take it away.
Yeah, our third person that, once again, unfortunately was not able to be with us today. Her name's Betty Reynolds Anderson. Reynolds was her maiden name when she lived here in Wellington. She graduated in 1959 from Wellington High School. She graduated second in her class with honors and went to the University of Kansas after graduation and graduated there and got her undergraduate degree in political science area. And she also was in a honors dormitory in Lawrence at KU, which she happens to be a African American lady, and there's a lot of people who know a little bit of history. In 1959, when she graduated, in the early 1960s, things were not easy for people of color, women, and get the two together, woman of color. So for her to have such great success in school, university, she worked for the Kansas Attorney General for a while. She worked at Temple University and eventually ended up in Washington, D.C., working for the Equal Opportunity Agency, and was one of the groundbreaking people to work there as a fairly new agency at that time. And she wrote some of their original studies and policies that still are even used today. So she definitely was, an icon during the civil rights movement, one of many. As I teach history, I always say, well, of course, people know Dr. King and John Lewis and people like that, but there's literally thousands of people who did groundbreaking things at that time, and she's one of them, definitely. And like I said, not only for people of color, but also for women.
Yeah, for sure.
To get in the door.
And from our own community, too, which is even bigger. I feel like that's awesome.
Yeah, and that's one of the great things to me about this program, the Wall of Recognition program, is for people to see what great things that Wellington High School graduates have done. Yeah, and it's kind of on a interesting personal note to me. When we started this in 2012, the first person that I called up was a guy named Neil Frank. He was the head of the National Hurricane Center. And my days growing up, he was on, TV, national news all the time, and I thought, I'm going to call this guy up and invite him back to Wellington High School. He was thrilled to death and just, that's great. When can I be there? Yeah. And that's what I found out about everybody. No matter how far they've gone, no matter how many great things they've done, they still think very fondly of their time in Wellington and at Wellington High School, and realize that this was what got them moving in their direction of success. I
feel like Wellington, just our community and our town as a whole, does a really great job of, it's a great town for you have such fond memories of it. I feel like, you know what I mean? Especially for people just growing up in it. I feel like I've already formed so many good memories here, and I just think it's awesome.
Yeah. And that's what's great about meeting these people that formed their memories back in the 40s and 50s and stuff, that I've been fortunate enough to get to meet them and talk to them. And they just have so many of those same fond memories.
Yeah, of course. So we just want to give a huge congratulations to Betty Anderson. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Phelps.
Yep. Thank you.